If you are a Braveheart, the next hour is just for you. Welcome to BraveHearts Radio with Brian Reinbold. In this program, you'll learn who the Bravehearts are and connect with them to help change the world. By doing so, you'll be changed for the better. Now, here's your host, Brian Reinbold.
And welcome, Bravehearts. I know how difficult it can be to go through your days without purpose. And I know what a great joy it can be to find your purpose and to live it. And at BraveHearts Radio, we are at our best when we're helping others to find that genuine voice within ourselves or within themselves, within our audience and our Bravehearts. Today, we're going to be talking about the cooking show. As divisive and divided as our world can be, at times, we do like to eat each other's food. And so I think cooking is a way to bring people together. And when I met Ouida Duncan, we had a connection about putting together a TV program, and that was that we'd been excited about getting that going. And so today, Ouida Duncan is joining me on the show. Hey, welcome again, Ouida.
Thank you, Brian. It's good to be back. Thank you.
Yeah. When we first met at the Valley of Relational Spaces that the Sutra folks put on in January, so it's been quick. You look at what have you done this year? Well, we've got a TV program that's in the works, and we've got a variety of reasons for doing this, right? But for a long time, I've had this idea that bringing people together around food is just a way to really make a connection. And like I said, as divided and divisive as things can be, we do like to eat each other's food. And I don't know if we want to share a lot of recipes today, but maybe one or two. So I don't know. I'll just throw it over to you.
Well, I was thinking about this topic when you first posted it, and you said we're going to do the cooking show.
Yeah.
And I know that we've been talking about food for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you know, I traveled all over the world. I've been
Mm-hmm.
to 6 continents so far. And the thing that would prompt me to go back to every single country is the food.
Wow.
And there are some countries, for instance, Vietnam. A friend of mine hosted a birthday party there in 2010. And I remember when I got the invitation, I thought, who, me? We're going to Vietnam, really? And
Mm-hmm.
Cambodia? Whoa. And little did I know, I knew very little about the French influence in the Vietnamese culture.
Uh-huh.
And how their cuisine was so infused into the Vietnamese culture.
Interesting.
And the delicacies and the way that they prepare their food is such a high palate.
Uh-huh.
And so, if for no other reason, I will be going back to Vietnam for the food.
Well, that is very interesting. I have a Vietnamese cookbook, and I don't know if you do this, but I'll get a book and I'll read part of it, and I'll get a good idea and go, oh, that was a good book. Even if I didn't read the whole book, if I got a good idea from it, I don't know that I've read the entire Vietnamese cookbook, but there is one recipe that I use over and over and over again, and it's a simple recipe for pot roasted rice.
Ooh.
And it's just cooking the rice, white rice, brown rice in butter or olive oil, whatever you want for flavor, until it gets kind of browned, and then adding the water and then cooking it like that. So what it does is it doesn't stick together. It's like every grain of rice is its own little fried tidbit, and add onions, or what they call the Trinity. What is that? Onions, carrots, and celery, I think. And yeah. So
you want to know who else cooks their rice like that?
No, yeah. I do want.
Very Arabic approach to cooking rice. And
Okay.
years ago, I was involved with someone from Egypt, and And so, you know, you think you know all about cooking, you think
Mhm.
you know all about preparing food until you spend time with someone else from a different culture.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, first of all, I was like, that's weird. And I was like, that's smart. You know,
Yeah.
there's something about, there's a science, as you know, to cooking, and there's a different approach in different parts of the world. I remember the last cooking class I took. My daughter had a birthday celebration in Bali, and we had a cooking class. It was just a private cooking class, the two of us, and they set
Mhm.
up this entire station. And at the end of the entire process, we're like, oh my God, we actually made this. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about the science behind cooking, something to be said about the whole therapeutic process of
Mhm.
cooking, and that you, at the end of it, you get to enjoy your own creation, which is
Yeah.
so cool.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the science of cooking because I've heard that there's a science to baking and there's an art to cooking. And it maybe things like I like to make stir fry, for example. And I think that there's more of an art to stir fry because it's kind of like, well, this is what I got. I think that'd be good together. And just
Revolting.
yeah, you just put it together, and it's it's more of an abstract than Mondrian or something like that. But the scientific part of it is the baking, where a certain amount of flour to a certain amount of sugar and to a certain amount of apples and what have you. Um, it's a little bit more. A good outcome is a little bit more dependent on following the measure.
You
Hmm.
know, as
Sounds like something a coach might say.
I wonder
Hmm.
which coach would say that. No, as we're going through this conversation, there's so many metaphors that are coming to mind for
Mhm.
me, right? And you know, we've touched on it in different conversations that we've had in the past
Mhm.
about the potpourri of humanity. And when you talked about stir frying and kind of throwing things together, you know, if we think about the American experiment, right?
Mhm.
It started off with one ingredient, and it, you know, was founded on different principles. But here we are 240 something years later as a potpourri
Mhm.
of humanity and representation from every corner of the world. And you know, as watching the State of the Union address last week, and I'm not sure how many of your viewers watched it,
Mhm.
but you know, without inserting any type of politics into this conversation, I thought it was one of the best State of the Union addresses I've ever heard in a long
Wow.
time. And here's why I say that.
Okay.
The president said, our adversaries are not waiting for us to, you know, they're not waiting on our advancement or our lack of advancement. They're moving forward as if we're not even part of the story.
Mhm.
And that we're so busy fighting with each other, this internal, you know, you know the saying, a house
Yeah.
divided cannot stand.
Mhm.
And there's so many wonderful opportunities that exist in this country
Mhm.
because we are a potpourri of
Yeah.
different nations, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be fabulous if we had an awakening, like
Yeah.
our own renaissance, and have our own stir fry of ideas and our
Yeah.
own stir fry of collaboration and curiosity, because you have to be curious in order to even let's go back to the cooking metaphors.
Mhm.
You have to be curious to want to pick up a Vietnamese cookbook,
Yeah.
right? Like, what made you pick up a Vietnamese cookbook, Brian?
Didn't have one. Yeah, curious, and
Right?
sure. And
Yeah.
there are some recipes in there I've used, but I was looking through my stack of cookbooks, and my favorite one, of course, is the one that my mom gave me, in 1979 for Christmas. And the inscription says, "To a budding gourmet, Christmas 1979." So I was 20 years old, and I've had that ever since. It's got 4 pictures for each recipe and about 3 other varieties for the recipe, and only a couple paragraphs of text. So it looks like it's pretty simple, but a lot of them are a little bit more complicated, and it's essentially from all around the Mediterranean. So there's Spanish paella, and there's Italian, there's Greek, there's Lebanese, and there's Algerian octopus, and I mean all kinds of things that you just. I haven't tried that one, by the way.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Okay. It's one of those. Yeah. There's a lot to that, but the one that's all beat up and the most used is my German American cookbook that I got in southern Minnesota. Minnesota. Yeah, that
having a Minnesotan accent.
The Minnesota, that doesn't sound like that would be German country, But yeah, there are areas in that area of southern Minnesota that are very German, and the recipes in there, things like New Ulm was the town. And Ulm, of course, is a place in Germany, and New Ulm, of course, is a place in Minnesota. And there were things like Wiener Schnitzel, which I think it's one of those things that if you don't know, you probably think it's a hot dog. Wiener Schnitzel. No, it's Wiener as in Vienna style Schnitzel, which is a cutlet, and it's the Italian version of veal Parmesan, I suppose. It's the German version of what the Italian would call veal Parmesan. So, hey, we're coming up on our first break. Can you believe it? Remember, you can be a sponsor of the show and help out. You're not just helping out your business, and you're not just promoting the work that you do. You're helping out the kids and the families at BraveHeartsForKids.org. As little as $280 a week, and you're making lives better for families and kids with cancer. And, it's never been a more important time than it is right now. So stick with us. We will be back on the other side of 60 seconds after these very important messages.
All right, you're clear.
All
hey,
right.
Brian, on your end, make sure that you don't have anything other than, because I know you're streaming to Facebook, so make sure you don't have anything extra open on your computer. Close down any extra programs or anything, because there was a couple times where you lagged out for a second there.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me I can take my calendar off. My inbox, I don't need that. I better make sure.
If you're using Chrome as an internet browser, I would suggest if you're going to stream to Facebook, try using it doesn't matter which one, just anything other than Chrome if you're going to stream to Facebook Live.
Oh, really? Okay. Good stuff to know,
Yeah, it eats up a lot of RAM. When you open up Chrome, you're also opening up every other Google app that is tied to the Google Chrome, so it eats up a lot of your RAM.
Cool. This is one of the reasons that we're doing the main reason was Winston said, hey, we're going to do Facebook Live, right? And we did. And and Winston can be very persuasive. But
nothing wrong with the Facebook Live. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Just one of those things like, there's no reason for you to know that Chrome's going to eat up RAM.
Okay.
It's just one of those things. Until you do it, you don't know.
Okay, I'll close out National Day calendar. There we go. All right, the other stuff here. And I'm going to close this one too.
That would be cool, Brian, if we talked about all of the different heritage that you have, because I think that'll be a very interesting part of the discussion, don't you think?
Yeah. I think that sounds great. Let's
Here we go. Coming back.
All right. When we come back, we'll do that.
You're part of BraveHearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian. His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
And welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to BraveHearts Radio. I'm your host, Brian Reinbold, and I am the mission specialist because I don't fly the rockets. I just help make sure the mission gets accomplished. And we are planning a couple of trips. They're to Machu Picchu this September and December. Check it out at machupicchu.braveheartsadventures.org. Braveheartsadventures.org is vacations with purpose. Talking with Ouida Duncan today about the cooking show. And the thing about the cooking show, the whole idea is something that was it was one of the great political statements I've ever heard. And I remember hearing it in February of 2008 and going to coffee with my conservative buddies at in Bismarck and telling him, I heard this guy talk the other day, and he's going to win, and he's going to win big. Barack Obama said, what binds us together is greater than what divides us. And I believe that sincerely. I think it's in a sense, what I believe I understand is that he meant it as Americans, that what binds us together is greater than what divides us. I think that in a bigger sense, even than that, what binds us together as people is the spirit that flows through us. And because of that, there is nothing that can divide us. In the bigger picture, I suppose. But we were going to talk a little bit, Ouida, about our heritage, our recipes that we grew up with, some of the things that were handed down. Did you want to share something, or should I just go ahead?
Well, first let's talk about Machu Picchu, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm hoping to be able to join in December.
Yeah.
When you get to Machu Picchu, well, when I was there in 2012, first of all, Peru as a country is absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another place I would go back to for the food.
Mm.
We got to Machu Picchu on the Orient Express from Cusco.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to Machu Picchu, you want to have your passport stamped. Because they have a special stamp because it's one of the seven wonders of the world, I believe.
Yeah.
And it is literally breathtaking, not only because you're, over 12,000 feet up, but the culture, the history, the food, the music is just absolutely enriching. Mm-hmm. So I'm God's willing, I will be back there with you in December to participate in the retreat, because I know it's going to be a special retreat.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about heritage, it's interesting because most of the places, if not all the places I've been to in the world, people think I'm from there.
Okay.
So, for instance, so as we talked about, and as you know, I'm Jamaican by birth.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that really mean, right? Jamaica is the largest English-speaking island in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It's not the largest island because you have Hispaniola, which has Haiti, Cuba, and Dominican Republic, and Cuba is there as well, largest Spanish-speaking island. But Jamaica was one of the most popular places for people from around the world. So before the British took it over, it was a Spanish protectorate.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a lot of cities like Ocho Rios and, a lot of Spanish names in Jamaica, let's put it that way. And I don't know if you know this, but the Pirates of the Caribbean is based on Port Royal in Jamaica.
Okay.
And it was called the wickedest place on earth.
I have heard about that, I believe. Yeah.
It was not only the wickedest place on earth, but it was also the richest place on earth.
Oh, yeah.
So the Spanish were there, and the British came, but not only the British, but the Chinese came.
Yeah. And
the East Indians came, and the Lebanese came, and the Syrians. And it was in the 1400s, during the Spanish Inquisition, that a lot of people from Jewish people from around the globe, or from Spain actually, came to Jamaica. So So within my bloodline, as we talked about previously, I have West African blood, I have East African blood, I have a little Filipino blood, I have Scottish blood, a little Swiss blood. So for me, what does that mean? That means that I feel comfortable anywhere I go in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because I think it's good to be reminded, as we're talking about food and what the things that connect us, and talk about Barack Obama's statement about the things that connect us are stronger than the things that divide us. Is to remember that at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're all humans. And I think the more we can think about it, that we're all frail. And for whatever reason, I don't think this is a new thing to the world, but there seems to be a lot of fear of the unknown. Right?
Yeah. I think, when I one of the things I don't follow the news very well. I mean, I really don't follow the news much at all. And I find that to be, you can't help but find out about things because you're just online, as a person is online. But what I perceive in the political spectrum is a sense that, hey, those other guys, you should be afraid of them. And it doesn't matter which you think those other guys are, because it's, that's what. And I think that's what what people get so aggravated with politics about, is like, dang it, you guys keep trying to make us afraid of something, fear something, fear the others. And most of us, I believe, are in the middle. And I like to think the midpoint of the bell curve is the high ground.
Yep.
And I really don't understand why somebody can't capture that and politically. But I guess I just don't understand it well enough.
Here's what comes to mind for me, because I used to be registered with one party, and I thought to myself, I said, you know what? No, I don't want to be registered with one party. I'm going to be an independent, because I don't want you to assume that because I'm registered with your party that you offer the ideas and beliefs that I share during whatever moment in time. So, for me, it's a value-based reason why I decided to become independent. But anytime you have two distinct teams, you're setting yourself up for a fight. You're basically you're creating division and opposition, because you're saying, well, I choose this team over another. But this is my prayer. My prayer is that one day we'll get to the point where there is no such thing as a Democrat or a Republican, that people will vote only based on their value system. And it's going to require a really difficult and hard look at the whole system as a whole, because it's broken, it's not working, and it's created way too much division. And then when people want to exploit it, it's very easy to exploit that whole premise of the other.
Yeah.
And I don't ascribe to that. I don't think that, I don't think that everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
But I should not become your automatic enemy just because I don't agree with you. That should not be the case. So there should be a point where people can have discourse and people can disagree, and and that's okay, because now you're putting new ideas out into the world, and but our hearts, a lot of our hearts are so hardened, and it's more important to be right than to be righteous. It's more important to be right.
That's a perception that people have. I don't think that's not your stance, right?
That's the perception that people have.
Yeah.
More important for them to be right than righteous, or for them to be in relationship with each other. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, building a coalition, and hopefully the people that are listening today would say, you know what, that sounds pretty cool. Like, you know, I don't have to be baked into one party or another.
Yeah.
I don't have to ascribe to this polarity of, you know, whatever it means to be part of each party.
Mhm.
And it's more important for me to be human and to be curious and to be accepting of differences. And I think if we can get to that place, you know, I feel we'll be cooking with gas. You like that phrase, cooking with gas?
Yeah, there you go. You know, you know, we're going to break in a couple minutes again. I'm going to share one of the recipes that it's not baking. So okay, my grandma Reinbold, she lived in Hebron, North Dakota. My grandfather came to the United States from Romania, but his grandfather went to Romania from Alsace, which is now part of France. But when Grandpa's grandpa left, it was part of Germany. So, you know, God help us if we can figure out who we are, you know. But Grandma made thin pancakes for us. And she lived after Grandpa died. He had a coal mine, and he was killed in an accident in his coal mine in 1943 when my dad was 10 and Grandma had 8 kids. And she moved to a little house in Hebron, North Dakota in western Morton County with no central heat. She lived there, you know, most of the time that I ever knew her until she got older. And she would make thin pancakes when we would stop there in a jumping off place for our travels. And she had a gas stove and the cast iron skillet, and she whipped up some batter that she had no recipe for. Because when I asked her for the recipe, she was puzzled. You know, what do you mean recipe? You know, it's like, well, how much of stuff do you put into it? Well, I just put it in and pour a little bit in the Crisco, put some Crisco in there, and then put a little, and then with her wrist she'd move the pan around. And wooden spoon or wooden spatula, she would turn it over, and she made a stack of those things. We'd eat those things rolled up with Karo syrup. Didn't even have maple syrup. So that's what we did. And we'll talk more about recipes. I'm gonna get one from you, Ouida, when we come back from the break. Going to break once again. You can support Brave Hearts for Kids for as little as $280 a week. BraveHeartsForKids.org, really helping out some families and especially the kids that have cancer. Check that out and do what you can today. So stick with us. We'll be back on the other side of 60 seconds after these great messages.
All right, you're clear. Hey, Brian, do me a favor and close out Skype. Make sure that's closed out because it rang and I heard a notification.
Oh, I don't have Skype. Is that yours? Was that yours, Ouida?
My phone rang while we were talking.
Okay.
Oh, was it a phone? Okay, it sounded like Skype on this end, so sorry about that.
No.
I heard a notification and it sounded like a ring.
I put it on Do Not Disturb, so we're good.
That was
calling.
That was the red phone. So.
That was my mom calling.
Oh, it was your mom.
My mom, Pearline.
For sure. Well, okay. So next, you're gonna have to share a recipe next now. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna share my. I'll share my curry shrimp recipe.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you checked out the new site, Brian?
The new Duncan Tree?
Yeah.
Well,
Launched
we looked at it together the other day. Yeah.
But did you check it out? Like, it didn't launch yet. It's finally launched.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, and that's DuncanTree.org.
DuncanTreeFoundation.org.
DuncanTreeFoundation.org. So I'll make sure to say something about that on the show for you that are with us here during the break on Facebook. This is the behind the scenes that this is what
back in 10 seconds.
All right, thanks, Josh. This is Josh. Yeah. Get the name.
You're part of BraveHearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
And welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to BraveHearts Radio. We broadcast live on the Voice America flagship variety channel, Mondays at 3 Central Time. And we are on demand 24/7, all 88 episodes of the show now on your favorite podcast service. So coming into the third segment, I always like to say something about the National Day Calendar. National Day Calendar is one of the great sponsors of the BraveHearts for Kids Pediatric Cancer Charity. April 28th, which was just last week, was National BraveHearts Day, and we had a really nice program. You can find the link to the daily show at braveheartsradio.org. It's really it's fun. It's 2.5 minute show, and they're on 20,000 radio stations nationwide. Today's Paranormal Day and Vicuna Day. Well, it's actually Textiles Day, but the show Anna talked about Vicuna as which is you'll be able to come to Machu Picchu with us, and Daniel said that they have Vicuna textiles in the villages above Pisac. So bring as much gold as you can carry, I guess. I think Vicuna's worth its weight in gold, So we're here with Ouida Duncan talking about the cooking show and all the things that bind us together rather than divide us. And I think food's one of them. You're about to share a recipe with us, Ouida, or a story?
I'm going to share a recipe, but you said that today is Paranormal Day.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be interesting if, the thing that would bind us together is, what the paranormal can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or if we were invaded by another being, like would that bring us together? I don't know. What do you think?
It's interesting that the movies, the Independence Day, for example, I think is one I think of, where the whole world comes together and fights the aliens, and the whole world came together to fight the pandemic. To a degree, not to the dramatic effect of the big screen blockbuster adventures, but it was something that brought people together. And I think of the connections that we've made over the past year as the tail side of the COVID coin.
Yeah, for me, COVID has been not initially, but eventually COVID became a blessing to me because I was able to join a writing group in Edinburgh, Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know where Edinburgh is,
Mm-hmm.
and just welcomed with open arms. And, recently I had a brief hospital stay, and I felt obliged to send them a message from my hospital room. I'm sorry, I'm not able to join today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, to feel loved and supported and listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And what's this interesting thing about the group, it's called Rogue Riders, and they're in Edinburgh. And if anybody from Rogue Riders is watching, I miss you and I love you, because I haven't been the last couple of Sundays.
I think I was invited to Rogue Riders at one point, and still have yet to make my initial appearance.
Yeah, but we each take turns reading from our books, our poetry, or whatever we're writing, and everyone takes turn, if they choose to, critique. And it's such a civilized way of interacting with other humans, and sometimes people's feelings get hurt, but nobody has a meltdown and says, "Oh my God, I'm going to come and I'm going to stab you and I'm going to kill all your kids because I don't like what you said about my my book."
But story. Yeah.
And I think and maybe the two of us are idealists, and maybe and maybe that's true.
I think that's true. Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nice if we could become part of different communities? So for me, COVID, introduced me to Rogue Riders. And we talked about what happened after the murder of George Floyd, that I wrote a poem which you've watched, as I had it animated.
Spectacular Death.
Spectacular Death. It's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. Spectacular Death by Ouida Duncan. But I found that my creativity was heightened during COVID, and I just wanted to learn more about what I didn't know. And then during my break at school, as I'm finishing up my MBA at the University of Bath, I decided to take an 8-week course at Cornell because I wanted to learn about diversity and inclusion. And so I think that having that certification ties into this conversation really well, because in the world of food, you have diversity. The coconut doesn't say to the pineapple, you don't belong in this fortune. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I've got a recipe going right now here.
You know what I mean? The banana doesn't say to the plantain, get out of here. We don't look like each other. So the recipe that I'm about to share with you is my recipe for curry shrimp. How much time do we have left?
Oh, we have time.
Okay. So the way that I make my curry, I start with the oil in the pan, usually olive oil, as virgin as possible. And then I add the curry powder and I mix it. It starts to foam in the bottom of the pot.
Okay.
Then I add the cut up potatoes. I usually put the white potato and I put sweet potato, cut into about 1-inch blocks. And when that's cut up, and I season the shrimp separately. So I like to use Sazon. So I use two, if I use a pound of shrimp or 2 pounds of shrimp, maybe 2 packs of Sazon, black pepper, cumin, and sometimes I add teriyaki, a little teriyaki sauce, and sesame oil. I also add scallions, fresh garlic, like half a, what do you call it? It's not a clove, but
a head.
Half a head of garlic. Thyme, THYME. And what else I put? Sometimes I put leek, like cut up leek in there. And once the potatoes are halfway done, I put the shrimp in. And I also add, sometimes I put onions and tomatoes. The key thing is to put a chicken stock as the gravy gets thicker, as the curry starts to coagulate with with everything, and it comes together, and it's like a symphony. So that's my curry shrimp recipe.
Wonderful. Yeah.
If you use it, just message me on Duncan Tree at Facebook.
Yeah, and when you mentioned Duncan Tree, Duncan Tree Foundation dot org. Yeah, DuncanTreeFoundation.org. That's yeah. I had a message pop up here. I don't think we're at break time yet. So Sazon, that is not familiar to me.
So it's made by Goya, and it basically it's a orangish color powdery substance that you put in. It's a little salty, but it's very flavorful. It's like it has saffron in it, so it's like the color of my shirt.
Okay.
It's a powder that you add, and it takes your food to another level.
Saffron, another one of those things that's worth its weight in vicuna, in gold. Yeah.
One more thing I should mention: I also put a little jerk sauce.
Jamaican. Now, Jamaica with its combination heritage roots, is it blessed by being known for English food? Is it?
Very interesting. Jamaica is such a very unique place. Well, it's still part of the British Crown. The Queen is still the head of state.
Even now.
Even now.
Oh, okay.
Even now.
Interesting.
So that we have a governor general that reports to the Queen. then we have a prime minister, and then we have, you know, the parliament, which is very, very British. But in terms of what did we inherit? Well, obviously tea.
Yeah.
You know, so we love our tea, but we have the best coffee in the world, Blue Mountain Coffee.
Okay.
In case you weren't aware.
And the best beer I've ever had. I don't drink beer anymore, but Red Stripe was my favorite. You know, so
Yes. And when I take you and a bunch of other people to Jamaica, we're going to try Dragon Stout.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried Guinness Stout?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dragon Stout is the sister to Guinness, but it's a lot smoother and it's a little bit sweeter.
Very good. That sounds like something you could cook with too, I think. You know,
I haven't cooked with it yet, but
yeah,
I'm looking forward to organizing retreats. You know, hopefully we can partner together. We can go to different places, including Peru.
absolutely. Well, you know, Peru is the beginning of the retreat adventure at BraveHearts Adventures, braveheartsadventures.org. Vacations with Purpose. I'm kind of getting good at working those little plugs in there like that. DuncanTreeFoundation.org. You know, and you can find out all of those things at BraveHeartsRadio.org. But yeah, I think Jamaica's on the list. I have Jamaica, the Philippines, India, Thailand, Australia, South Africa. I mean, that's just a list that we've put together in a quick brainstorming session. I could see traveling the world and connecting with people. And you know, somebody had mentioned about you know, the show Anthony Bourdain used to do. You know, where they travel
Right.
the world and do things like that.
So there's a new show on CNN. I think I mentioned the name to you recently. It's Discovering Italy. I forget the name of the host. So maybe we can. Do we have one more break after this, or this is the last break?
We got one break in about 2 minutes, and then we'll be after that we'll be heading down the home stretch. Can you believe that?
Perfect. First of all, I loved Anthony Bourdain's show because of the originality of it. He wove history into it, politics, and the cultural dynamics of each country that he visited. And it was fascinating. So there's this new show on CNN, and I don't think anyone can replace him. Yeah. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we could create our own food Olympics?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Sounds like a great plan. So we're going to be going to break, our final break of the day, and then coming back to bring it home after that. Remember, you can support Brave Hearts for Kids and do something good for your business and the kids for as little as $280 a week. Connect with us at braveheartsradio.org, and we'll get you set up with that. Stick with us. We will be back on the other side of 60 seconds after these very important messages.
You're clear?
Thank you. Was it Josh?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I got your name right, and I still.
Hey, it's okay. You just say, "Hey, you."
Oh, yeah, you know, it's like that's like the flight attendant. I thought with that clever name badge, it said "Oh Miss," you know, and I thought, well, that's pretty clever because then you can't be wrong. You know? Hey, you. Yeah, it's a good.
That reminds me of the Pink Floyd song. I love that song.
Which song is that?
Hey, you.
Oh yeah, that's Pink Floyd. Yeah. Pink Floyd. Oh. A few years ago, I was the MC for a American Cancer Society Real Men Wear Pink event at Railroad Days in West Chicago, and we had, it was a couple thousand people, and they were waiting for the band, and just before the band went on for the final night's of festivities and the concert, I introduced the mayors of the communities, West Chicago, Naperville, and so forth, and the dignitaries and celebrities who would be wearing, thank you, it would be wearing pink. And
someone's on a motorbike outside.
Okay.
BraveHearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian. His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
Yeah, welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to BraveHearts Radio. I'm your host, Brian Reinbold, and I am the mission specialist because it's your parade. I just help make sure you're in it. And we're planning those trips to Machu Picchu this September and December. Bravehearts Adventures. And then, talking with Ouida Duncan from Duncan Tree Foundation, duncantreefoundation.org. We didn't talk much at all about Duncan Tree Foundation and the tremendous work that is being done there in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in the Philippines, and I expect you're moving to other parts of the world to help kids there too, right?
Well, in the 13 years of our existence, the last 9 years were dedicated to scoliosis missions.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the Doctors Without Borders for Spine Surgery.
Doctors Without Borders for spinal surgery. Yeah.
It's to kind of boil it down for people. So what the foundation has been able to accomplish, we've conducted over 20 mission trips at those 3 countries that Brian mentioned. And we've heard from about, I want to say 16 other nations around the world, including Pakistan, Algeria, Czech Republic, India, Trinidad, Dominica. So, people are aware of us. And so where we are now, due to COVID, elective surgeries were put on hold. But that's the other opportunity that COVID has presented, because I was able to dust off an idea that's about 10 years old in moving into an online space. And, for people who don't know who we are, we provide equity and inclusion to underserved communities through healing, teaching, and empowerment. So what we're trying to do is basically uplift people who are under-resourced. And so what COVID has helped us do, is look at how we can uplift people in an online space, either through a podcast or an online television show, and keeping the politics out of it, but bringing new ideas, fresh ideas, and inspirational messages to people who are looking to make a change in their own lives and in the lives of other people. And so, Brian, you're part of the planning process. You're part of the team, which I'm really excited about. And it's going to be interesting to see where we take it from here. Yeah. And on May 5th, so 2 days from now, you and I are supposed to be getting together on Clubhouse to have our first at about
it's at 7 o'clock Central Time, is it?
It'll be 7 p.m. We can make it. We can change the time to Central Time, so we can make it 8 p.m. We can make it 8 p.m.
Is it? That's just what I remember off the top of my head here.
Yeah. We haven't officially set the time, but it'll either be 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So just keep an eye out on Facebook, Duncan Tree Foundation on Facebook, and on LinkedIn as well, and on Twitter, Duncan Tree. But I'm really looking forward to this next phase of the organization in how we tell our story.
Yeah.
And in how we help other people tell their story.
Yeah.
And it's really, again, about how we can join together to help uplift each other.
And you've got some really, really quality content on YouTube with the success stories of the kids.
Absolutely.
It's
the thing that I love, I love meeting the kids. That's like the favorite part of the trip. Every time we go to Jamaica or the Philippines, the day the entire team gets to meet the kids and their family members. It's like Christmas, New Year's, birthday, all rolled into one. And then it gets even better. The next year when you go back and you see them after surgery, after they've healed. And a lot of the kids that we work with have been bullied. They've been marginalized. They've been made to feel less than. A lot of them don't have friends. They don't have a network, and they don't have a community. And it's good to see a year later, there's this one young man, I said to him, Vince Michael, how many friends do you have? I have lots of friends. And the year before he had none. You know what I mean? So it's really very, very satisfying. I can't even begin to describe.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's in Philippines, or was that example?
That was from the Philippines. And
Yeah.
I think that was our second trip to the Philippines. So we started going there in 2014. And then we went back again in 2015. We skipped 2016 because of their elections for safety reasons.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went back in 17, 18, and 19.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we had a fundraiser at one of the Jamaican diplomats locations, and we invited the former governor of New York, David Patterson, to speak, and he's legally blind.
Oh, okay.
And I remember he had us all shaking because he was telling the story about being rejected as a teenager. Nobody really believed in him, although he was really, really smart. And he went from being a reject to being the governor of the state.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Ouida, you don't know what these kids are going to grow up to be.
Yeah.
They're going to be the ones who could find the cure for cancer. They could be the ones who create the next Google, the next Amazon. You don't know. And so don't, as Joe Biden said in the State of the Union address, don't bet against America. And my thing is, don't bet against a kid. Yeah. Because we don't know what these young people are going to turn out. They're going to save us from ourselves. and I think that was made true after George Floyd's murder. Yeah. How many kids came out in protest because they realized this is wrong and this has to stop. Yeah. So I think that, as we close this show, if there's anything that we talked about today, whether it's Vietnamese food or Jamaican food, whatever your flavor is, mm-hmm. Maybe tonight or tomorrow you go and collect all of the ingredients and you cook it up and you listen to some Bob Marley and you listen to whatever whoever inspires you. Yeah. And take your own mini vacation, because I think that's what food does too. It's like your own mini vacation. Uh-huh. Away from the static that's out there in the world. Yeah.
I think, I think I'm going to listen to Luke Reno, the Luke and the Lovingtons. Luke was one of the guests on the show last fall, and he and Benjamin Suarez, they have the Goodness Tour, where they I have to get those guys back on this thing. That they do work in the Bahamas, and I mean there's so many good connections. We're just out of time right now. So thanks everybody for joining us this week. I've been talking with Ouida Duncan about the cooking show and other good things. Remember to go to braveheartsforkids.org. Help us in any way that you can. Just $20 can bring a banner of joy to a child with cancer. Means more now than ever before. Please plan to join us every Monday at 3 Central Time, and whenever you feel like it on your favorite podcast. Next week, we'll have as our guest Scott Mason, and we'll be racing down the Purpose Highway. So catch us if you can. Remember that doing good anywhere does good everywhere, and we'll see you next week. Until then, be well, stay well.
All right. Great job, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much. Great working with you today.
Hey, you as well. You both have a wonderful week. And next time Matt's gone, I'll work with you again.
All right. Yeah. Fantastic.
All right. You have a great one. All right. Bye-bye.
Here. Bye-bye.
All right. And thanks, Facebook, for joining us, too. Hey, it was great being on Facebook. Let's see what else. I didn't mention the goal that we have of inspiring 1 billion volunteer hours. But that's maybe we need the Facebook help for that, and get that going. So I'm going to stop that live stream on Facebook. Done. Stop our recording.